Hello, Burke families. This is David Panouche, Director of Technology and Innovative Learning. I'm here to give you an update for our distance learning resources and expectations for both students and teachers. The reason that we're giving you this update is that we heard a lot of very helpful feedback from the surveys we had last week. Plus, we've learned a lot in terms of technical issues that students have had, and we want to update you folks on the solutions and the new policies that we're going to have starting next week in terms of trying to make the experience better for students. We understand that teachers are working really hard and students are working really hard, and for the most part it's really going quite well. We also want to be responsive and flexible on all sides to make it go as well as it can possibly go. So without further ado, when you log into SIS, if you go to resources, you will find a tile for distance learning, and that includes a link to this Burke Distance Learning Resources for Students and Families, which will bring you to this PowerSchool page, which has all of our updates, all the tech support you need, all of the expectations. So if you want to know more about distance learning, this is definitely the place to go. So our first thing that I want to update you about is if as a student you are too ill to work, you are unable to get up that day for a sickness, then please have your parents email Monica or Vanessa, Monica in the middle school, Vanessa in the high school, and they will alert your advisors and your teachers so that you don't have to worry about letting everybody know. One person, you can just email Vanessa or Monica and they'll let everybody know. In order to try and make the experience of turning in homework and planning for your homework a little more uniform, starting next week, teachers are going to have assignments with one of two times that they are due. So on the day that it's due, the homework will either be due at 5 p.m. or at the start of a synchronous meeting. So if you happen to have a synchronous meeting scheduled at 11:30, that could be the time an assignment is due. But if you don't have a synchronous meeting, or if the default is 5 p.m. on the date the homework is due. We have also want to really try and help students and families have a better understanding of when their video conferences are going to be. So to that end, teachers will post an assignment on SIS that has the video conference schedule for each video conference and a link to the video conference. In addition, on the class page of each class page, it'll say, Modern World History, and right at the top it'll have the video conference schedule, either upcoming video conferences, or it will simply say, Yellow 3 and Indigo 6, and you can use that to plan your video conferences. There are some hiccups that we've learned in terms of student behavior on occasion, and so we wanted to remind students that our expectations for student behavior follow the family handbook. But there are some specific, context of distance learning that we want to remind you of. When you're in a conference or doing anything video related or anything kind of communication, of course you have to be respectful in your communication. And you have to pay attention. So don't get on another device or on your cell phone or just get up and leave unless you have a physical need in the middle of a meeting. Don't share your Google Meet links with anyone else. It's secure nonetheless, but it's not a good idea. Don't use inappropriate language or gestures. Don't record or take photos of other students, teachers, or advisors without their permission. Similar with materials that teachers have created, don't take photos or share those without permission. If you're interacting with Burke's social media feeds, all of our expectations for student behavior apply as well. If you do want to get involved, email Jadea Asante, and you can contribute respectfully and appropriately and creatively to our social media feeds. Some folks have already found this, but there is a grid extension in Google Meet. It only works on laptops and desktops, but it allows you to put all of the people that you're meeting with in a grid and see all of them at the same time. So there's instructions here on page 5.5 on how to do that. On page 5.4, we know that some people still have trouble now and again with video conferencing. It is a heavy load for devices. It is a heavy load for your internet connection. And so it's not always going to work perfectly. If you have an ongoing issue, please, the first thing you need to do is open up a tech support ticket. So here under 5.4, also of course under 3.0, open up that tech support ticket and we will try to help you. We have some specific suggestions here if you're just having a lag or slow performance. So you can go through some of these and try and do some of these changes before just leaving the meeting or turning off your video, because that does leave the other participants a little bit unsure of what you are doing and your participation and attention. Going back to our expectations for behavior, we expect you to pay attention during the video conferences. A quick little trick that I think will be helpful to folks in video conferences. If you're on your iPad, it's really easy to just click the button to mute your microphone and unmute it when it's your turn to speak. But if you're on a laptop or desktop, sometimes that can be kind of slow. So you can use a keyboard shortcut, which should be a lot faster. On a Mac, it's Command D, and on a PC, it'll be Control D. And that'll toggle your microphone mute on and off. So that's going to help you a little bit. The other thing that we heard a lot about was that some students are struggling with the schedule and scheduling themselves each day, and so we now want to say explicitly that we expect every student each day to check their Burke Google Calendar. If you're not sure how to get to your Burke Google Calendar, definitely let us know, but it's a Google app. And all the synchronous meetings that you have for the day are always going to be there, whether or not you've seen an email invitation, whether or not you've accepted the email invitation. That calendar will show the meetings that are scheduled. And again, starting next week, most teachers are already doing this, but starting next week for sure, all teachers will post to the Google Calendar all their synchronous meetings by no later than 4 p.m. the day before. So if you look at your Google Calendar in the evening, you will see whatever conference meetings you have coming up. We've got here a few instructions for importing your SIS schedule into Google Calendar that may make it more useful. Also, we've heard from some folks that Google Calendar can generate a lot of email invitations and notifications. You can reduce those email notifications by following the instructions linked here. The other way to keep yourself organized is to build your own 7-day cyclical schedule, just as you might have when you were in school. There's a template here, the blank schedule and task template. It's linked here, and it looks like this. And what you can do is simply look at your class pages and figure out when all of your conferences are and put them on a 7-day cycle. And then as long as you know what color day it is and you look at SIS each day to see the color day, you can build your 7-day cycle out that way. Also, we've got this link here to a master schedule of all the video conferences for all the courses. It's a big spreadsheet, so it's not the easiest document to navigate. I think it's easier just to go to your class pages and look at what your teachers have posted. And again, by next week, all teachers will post right on the front of their class page when their synchronous meetings are scheduled. Note that we've got some more sample templates for you to build schedules, including some from actual students. So take a look at that and use them if you're struggling to get organized. Another technical challenge that we heard from several students about was submitting certain types of files on SIS, in particular on the iPad. And so we've created a whole set of instructions here on page 2.0, required technologies. And if you scroll down, submitting PDF files. And as far as we know, for the most part, this has worked. As far as we know for everybody, it's a workaround, but it works. And if even after following all these instructions, you're still having trouble, get in touch with tech support, and we will help make sure you can submit your work. The last thing I want to say is something just to let you know that you can ignore it, which is SIS has a new tab that some of you may have noticed called Learning Progression. We are not using it. The makers of the software have added it, so you can ignore it. Again, I want to just emphasize that we know how hard students are working, and we know how stressful and anxious people are right now, and we want to make we want to have an engaging learning experience, and we want to try and reduce stress by trying to be responsive to the needs of students to be organized and to have certain kinds of expectations for consistency, and we're working on it. And so if you have questions about the distance learning policies or expectations in general, or about any of the technical things, you can get in touch with me or your child's advisor, or the teacher directly, of course, or Monica or Nigel. Have a great weekend.